say this every year that I come here. I think this is just the best class ever. This is the best class ever, and you know I really mean it every time.
We're having fun.
Are we
We're
ever?
having fun.
Oh, well, I'm so glad because so am I. And so glad you're here this morning, and we encourage you to sing on anything that rhymes, you know, a refrain or a chorus or anything. If you know the song, not too likely that you will know any of them. They're a little obscure, but we're going to try to give you a picture of what happens when songs migrate. That's what we've been mainly working on, and also in the afternoon we're working on interpretation of, you know, taking these songs and bringing them to life. You know, how do we sing them so they're not just like this, and we're not, you know, just singing in monotone and you want to fall asleep, and you know, it's important not to overdo it, but to, you know, to give it life. So what we've been doing is talking about, I went to Scotland in 1970 on a very tiny research grant in the Outer Hebrides to, I knew that the source of songs, a lot of old songs came from Scotland, Ireland, and England, but no one had really done much research on them. There were a lot of people over here who went over and collected. That is true. Howard Glasser, Pittsburgh went over. Kenny Goldstein went over, Alan Lomax went over, but they were just purely collectors, not singers, and they didn't really take it much further than that. They just simply plucked songs out of Scotland and came back with them, mostly taken from traveling people. A lot of people want to say gypsies, but that's kind of an offensive word to them. It's traveling people. They had huge repertoires of songs. Good morning. Hiya. And those songs traveled over, and we've talked in the class this week about how these songs have changed according to the cultures they went into. In my region, where I grew up on the Vermont and Hampshire border, up not far from Canada, and in the Maritimes, you find the songs will retain a lot of their tunes and lyrics a lot more. They would adhere much more to them before they started traveling down the Appalachians. And that's a fairly, you know, obvious conclusion to come to, I know, but we looked at the differences and I sang with them songs that reflected that. And then as you move further down the chain, the Appalachian chain, why is there such a huge difference? Why is there such a huge change?
Isolation?
Well, isolation sometimes means both, but isolation can mean from Scotland and Ireland and England. When they're isolated and they go to another isolated place in North America, they retain, because there's nothing to remove that, the text and the tune. But what happens when it goes into African American? Absolutely. The Black tradition, you never pick up this banjo. I never pick it up without my awareness of where this went, where it came from, and how it affected the beauty of these songs. It is just the most wonderful instrument, and no one played the banjo because the African slave community went down into the South, and when I grew up in the 40s and 50s in northern New Hampshire, nobody knew what a banjo was. I was one of the first people to ever play this thing, and I didn't know what to do with it. My dad was a fiddler, and he took me down south to stay with a person, a friend down there in Greensboro, North Carolina here, and they took me to a tobacco auction and to a square dance, and I heard the banjo for the first time, and I just really went crazy. And I didn't even know what it was called. My dad didn't know. And eventually, when I was about 15, and my dad had been nagged enough by me to say, "Get me one of those things, please, Dad." He found one in Sears Roebuck, would you believe? It said Sears Roebuck for a banjo. A really good one, too, called the Fairbanks. They were the predecessor of the White Lady Vega banjo. It's amazing. And I just kind of taught, you know, my dad would take me down once a year. I'd do the best I could, you know, watching the old guys play, go back home, and I've sort of formed my own I do frailing and I play sort of my own way, but I mostly play for songs. I love playing in sessions with people too, but it's just such a wonderful instrument for songs. So we're going to use it part of the time and part of the time unaccompanied, because that's mostly the way songs were sung, both in the British Isles and here. For a long, long time, the instruments were not considered an important part, and now they've more or less taken over. I actually had somebody say to me when I was teaching last year in Indiana, "Why are you emphasizing the song? Why aren't you emphasizing the banjo?" And I thought, well, why bother to sing? When you think about it, what is the point of singing? The banjo or any instrument enhances what you do. Of course it does. You don't malign what. I wouldn't drag this heavy instrument around and love it so much if it didn't, make that song just wonderful. But when it needs it, and so we do a lot of unaccompanied singing, don't we? So there'll be a bit of both.
Banjo.
Co-star. So I'm going to start off with a song that I showed the class a couple of days ago. It started out in Ireland. It's called A Pretty Crowing Chicken. And it started out as a song in Ireland called The Grey Cock, meaning cockerel. And there was a superstition in Ireland, and a lot of that superstition disappeared over here. The church really forbade people, talking about superstitious things. That was very taboo. So a lot of that disappeared in the songs, and people had to start substituting other things. But if the cockerel, if a person died in Ireland and their body was put into the grave in a coffin, if the soul decided to come out and do a little bit of night walking around at night, it had to be back in the grave. Dave, was it by midnight or something like that, I think? Before the cockerel crowed the first light of day, wasn't it? Yeah. And that's where the name cockerel comes in. And if they didn't, that they would not rest easy ever. The soul would never go back into place. So, but when it arrived here in North Carolina, it was taken up.
Retune for the evening.
Banjo retunes every song.
Lots of different tunes.
I think the joke is, how long does it take to tune a banjo? Nobody knows, it's never been achieved.
I'll deal with you later. Yeah. But when it reached North Carolina, it changed from a cockerel into a chicken. And all the superstitious element of that song disappeared completely, and this is what you're left with. How many of you have heard of Frank Prophet? Yeah, wonderful banjo maker. He made beautiful banjos. He was up in Beach Mountain, North Carolina, and made beautiful fretless banjos, because that's the way people played them years ago. They didn't have frets. You had to find the note by sliding. And he made the most beautiful banjos in the world, and he was a wonderful singer. He came from a whole family, the whole Prophet family sang and played. And goodness knows at what point that changed. His family had Irish origins, so at some point. So if there's any bit in it that you would like to join in on, please do. wonderful. It's so poetic. If you take the melody away, you are left with such a beautiful last verse. My own true love, my own turtle dove, when will I see you again? When the moon and the stars enter in yonder stream, and the sky will shed no more rain. I thought I usually sing this with my son Kieran. I wish he could be here because he taught guitar here one and I really loved it. He's a wonderful singer, guitar player, and he usually plays guitar on this, but I'll just sing it because it's got such an interesting background to it. It's called Freighting from Wilcox to Globe, and the class was talking about the songs that migrated out into the West, because quite often the songs that ended up in the Western states didn't really, and they still don't get enough attention. And my son and I put together a 2-hour PowerPoint presentation that Dave runs the tech side of it, and we show all the different aspects of the cattle drive and the women who are left out on the Great Plains who are so vulnerable. They were murder ballads out there because they were so left, to be exploited. So many different aspects, the gold rush and so forth. And so many of these songs either got lost or ignored. And this is one that started out in Scotland and in Ireland. And it involved, the chorus involved the names of trees, depending on where you lived. It was called Homeboy's Home in England. It was just a very kind of slightly boring, homeboy's home, home I'd like to be, home for a while in my own country, where the oak and the ash and the bonny rowan tree, all growing greener in my own country. And it was okay. It ended up in Scotland slightly differently, a little bit more energetic, and then it traveled into Vermont, and it turned into a song that was collected by a lady who lives near us in Middlebury, Vermont now, Helen Hartness Flanders. She's a famous collector. And it was, as I walked out in Raspberry Lane, I chanced for to meet with the mistress of fame. The oak and the aloe are a green plantain tree, and they're all growing green in North America. And it goes on. So it just starts to change as it goes from region to region. And I was singing many years ago out in Arizona, in southeast Arizona, in the ranching area, with a fellow who was a dear friend of mine, an old fellow by the name of Chester James, who had originally come from Indiana. And we just happened to sing at a festival in Safford, Arizona, the Raspberry Lane, the Vermont version. And at the end of the concert, this old guy, great big guy in a Stetson and boots and stuff, ambled up to us and he said, well, he says, we sing it different down here. And I immediately lit up. And this is what he sang to me. He told me that there were 2 men by the name of Lieberman and Myers, these 2 wealthy New Yorkers who decided to go west during the gold rush and make a fortune on top of the fortune they already had. Not in gold, but in panning for iron ore. And it was rich in Arizona in that particular area. They would take mules, short-footed animals, across the Chiricahua Mountains. And they exploited, like so many people did in the logging camps, they exploited the workers. And this is what came out of his mouth. I can remember it. Come all you jolly freighters who travel upon the road, that ever hauled a load of coal from Wilcox to Globe. That's how I made my living for 10 long years or more, was hauling coal for Lieberman, no wonder I am poor. In 1883, I started with my team, chock full of glee, with that elusive dream. On that first night out from Wilcox, my best horse got stole, and it made me cuss a little when I came out in the hole. And it's home, dearie, home, home you'd better be. Over in the Gila, in the white man's country, where the cottonwood and ash and the mesquite shall ever be growing green upon the river, there's a home for you and me. I was an honest man when first I hit the road. I wouldn't take an oath, nor I wouldn't tap a load, but you should have seen my mules when I began to cuss. They flopped their tails and waggled their ears and pulled the load or bust. But now I'm afraid her bold and I'm up to all the tricks. I can tap a whiskey barrel with nothing but a stick. You never could detect it, I've got it down quite pat. And I'll fill it up with water again, sure there's no harm in that. And it's home, dearie, home, home you'd better be. Over in the Gila, in the white man's country, where the cottonwood and ash and the mesquite shall ever be growing green upon the river, there's a home for you and me. Now when we get to Pima, the girls, they are so fine. A fella likes to treat them all to Uncle Moses wine. But Thatcher's got the prettiest girls, that's where we stay all night. But we had to go to Safford to get a little tight. And it's home, dearie, home, home you'd better be. Over in the Gila, in the white man's country, where the cottonwood and ash and the mesquite shall ever be growing green upon the river, there's a home for you and me. I've traveled in the sunshine, I've traveled in the rain. I've lost my wagons in the mud, hauled them out again. I've laid out in the snow till it's a wonder I'm not dead, with a devil a bit of cover but an Arizona bed. Home, dearie, home, home you'd better be. Over in the Gila, in the white man's country, where the cottonwood and ash and the mesquite shall ever be growing green upon the river, there's a home for you and me. Writing from Wilcox to Globe, that's what it turns out. Just amazing. You never know if you're lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. If I had not been at that festival, that song would never have been archived and sung. It's just, you know, he probably kept it to himself. Gila, by the way, is Gila County, G-I-L-A. It's the largest county in Arizona. So they substituted it over and over again, all the way through the song. It's not meaning to stop you, is it?
No, it's herself.
Oh, right. Is there time to do one more before we all start? Pardon? Is it? Do we need to start?
We have about 5 minutes.
Oh gosh. Right. Let's get going. I learned this from Joe Newberry from here in North Carolina, one of the greatest fiddle players, singers, and banjo players in the whole universe. He's a wonderful fellow. Whenever we're together, we often sing this song called Rocky Island. I'm going to Rocky Island, oh honey, oh. See my candy darling, know I love her we're going to start off the craft exhibition by singing, all of us, later today. So, Dave, do you want to come? My husband's from Northern Ireland. Dave McClure, do you want to join us on Roller Bowler?
Yeah, no.
No. Dave used to sing with a really wonderful sea shanty group from Liverpool called Storm Along John. And this is an Irish halyard shanty, sea shanty, called Roller Bowler. Ready with it?
Let her rip.
Let her rip. Join in on the refrain. Let's see. As I walked out in Liverpool, roll me roller bowler. As I walked out in Liverpool, was down in All Park Lane. Today, hey, jig and a hop. Good morning, ladies all, and roll me roller bowler. Today, hey, jig and a hop. Good morning, ladies all. Now let's see. How's it starting? The first time that I met her, hurrah, me roller bowler. Well, the first time that I met her, this saucy girl of mine. Today, hey, jig and a hop. Good morning, ladies all, and hurrah, me roller bowler. Today, hey, jig and a hop. Good morning, ladies all. Where she winked and tipped her flipper, hurrah, me roller bowler. Where she winked and tipped her flipper, she thought I was a mate. Today, hey, jig and a hop. Good morning, ladies all, and hurrah, me roller bowler. Today, hey, jig and a hop. Good morning, ladies all. But when she found that I was skinned to roll me roller bowler. But when she found that I was skinned, she left me standing there. Hey, hey, jig and a hop. Good morning, ladies all, and hurrah, me roller bowler. Today, hey, jig and a hop. Good morning, ladies all. So she left me there on Low Park Lane, hurrah, me roller bowler. She left me there on Low Park Lane, so I went back on board. Today, hey, jig and a hop. Good morning, ladies all.